the Malcolm Nance Black Man Spy podcast from incredible New York City, where I am sitting on a terrace in downtown Manhattan, soaking up the views. And I have business here in Manhattan today. So this is where I'm starting the podcast from. Wajeeh assures me that this is actually going out. Double check, Wajeeh.
People are all commenting you're live.
Oh, well, where's my comments? I'm not seeing any of the commenting or anything. I'm still on the invite guest thing. So whatever works for me, yo. You're going to have to now cover for me and look at all the funny comments that I'm going to be missing. I can actually bring it up on my phone, but for those of you who are here, this is day 135 of the U.S.-Iran war, and it appears that we are sort of ish back to war. And the fighting feels like it was in abeyance yesterday, that it sort of dimmed down, but there were reports of explosions and attacks along the Iranian coast, and we're going to discuss that. Jacob Carsbo, Danish intelligence officer extraordinaire, is not with us today. He is having a life and a family and vacations and cool things that none of us ever get to have, right, Waj? All we get to do is watch the Middle East, and bam, you have real cats that fight. I have real dogs that fight, and now we have cats and dogs fighting, living together, doing all sorts of terrible things in the Middle East. But who is here today is Wajeeh, the gay lion, coming from Minneapolis, Minnesota. All right, and he's got his
How?
Join the Revolution hoodie. Is that a hoodie? There.
Yeah.
Yeah, here he is. That is a cool graphic. I got to tell you, with the lions all at your feet. That's amazing. Well, Wajeeh, keep count of the persons tracker here till we get over 1,000, because I can't see. And, you know, I don't even know if we're
Yeah.
live. So,
We're at 7:37.
okay, great. Well, I today am in New York City. I have meetings here this morning after the show. Then I get to drive home in my new electric car. So I won't be saying what kind it is. All I know is it's made in Germany and it begins with Bavarian. So, but hey, it's awesome. I love electric cars. I told you when I was in London for the Bletchley Park show, World War II show, I drove a BMW i4 sedan. One, sexiest car I've seen in ages. Two, completely quiet. I had 375-mile range. I drove all over London in that car, and at the end of it, I was like, I'm getting an electric, y'all. But I did not get a BMW i4 because there's new ones coming out. They're going to be more awesome next year. So I have a cheesy coffee
I'm
cup watch. It's just, wait, wait,
I mean,
wait,
copy is copy. Write your name incorrectly.
wait. This is, wait. Here, I always write this because this is what the Iranians have been selling to us for the last couple of days. All right. Is that they have been in the suit and they have been selling this to us.
Comment.
Diamond. This is an Iranian camel. And we seem to have bought $300 billion worth of them. Isn't that amazing?
Well, literally, I was
That's what,
telling my I was literally telling my husband yesterday, like, listen, like, you have no idea what you guys are doing because, like, they're literally entering the camel souk, believing they know camel. They believing they know camel, but they don't. They never dealt with camels before. And all of a sudden, they're trying to buy a camel. And I don't know if you know, but Oman, for their camel beauty competition, had to dismiss several camels because these camels had Botox injections and plastic surgeries.
I can't take it. What?
I'm not joking.
Okay, I have been down to the camel beauty contest, and you know, the thing is, there's two herds of camels. There's one out in El Ain, which is the place, and then down near Liwa, which is where they do the camel beauty contest every year. One second, I will show you. And you know, and the funny thing is, I was with two guys who live in the Emirates yesterday, and neither of them had heard about this, and they'd been living there for like 5 years. I was like, what? Uh, but the camel beauty contest is sort of a joke ish, but because camels are they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for some camels, on
Millions.
on the basis of their strength, their looks, their power, you know, like falcons, right? Falcons, I've seen, I saw Sheikh Maktoum of Dubai spend $500,000 on a falcon.
Yeah.
And I heard yesterday of somebody who was on an executive jet with a falcon.
Hmm.
Him, first class, falcon, first class seat, $10,000, right? And but it's a thing. These guys, they really, really do this. So the camel beauty contest, um, you know, for example, this is the and oh, this I guess you're talking about the one that's in Oman,
Hmm.
and they make them look very pretty, very, very pretty, you know? And they put eyelashes on them, and I've seen some that had makeup on them. It was pretty amazing. But and you're right. This is the pictures from it. Camel beauty contest rocked by Botox scandal. Well, all I can say is this, right? The Iranians, the Iranians, the Iranians have sold the United States $300 billion worth of camels.
Filled
And
of Botox.
yeah, the problem is they were they were these animals with the word camel written on the side in Arabic.
Poor donkey. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it. And they go, look, it is written on the side, camel. And that is not the Arabic for camel. That's a phoneticization. Camel in Arabic is jumal, right? Jumal. So,
Oh my
or if
gosh.
you're Egyptian, gumal. All right. So,
Gamel. Gamel.
gamel, gamel, gamel. Wallahi. Okay. How many people do we have? We have
We
a
have
thousand yet?
reached 1,000. We
Okay.
have
Let's
reached
start the
1,000.
show because there is crazy ish things happening that have been going on in the last 24 hours since we last spoke. The United States and Iran had been trading blows up until yesterday morning. The last exchange of fire that we can confirm was it yesterday about 5 a.m., which was ballistic missile launches against the Muwafaq al Salti air base near Al Azraq in Amman, southeast of Amman, Jordan. Huge base. US F 35s have been operating there. US Special Forces and airborne troops are stationed there. And the Iranians launched 8 ballistic missiles. That was yesterday. We talked about that in yesterday's show. Today is a different animal. The fighting has subsided, except that an interesting incident went on and it occurred at the correct time ish around 11 p.m. Iran time, which would have been about 2:30, 3:30 yesterday afternoon East Coast time. What happened was there were a series of reported explosions that were occurring in Ahvaz, which is in the northwestern part it's on the Iran-Iraq border, and it's just a little bit in from southern Iraq, from like where Basra is. Ahvaz is a large oil-producing oil field, right? The Ahvaz field is there north of Bandar Khomeini or Khorram Shah, Bandar Khomeini. So you can go look that up, Ahvaz. If I can take a moment, I'll get it on the map. Bushehr, the city of Bushehr reported explosions in the vicinity of Bushehr, explosions in the vicinity of Bandar Abbas. and explosions in the vicinity of Chabahar, which, as you know, is on the Iranian Indian Ocean coast, all the way out in the Indian Ocean. And so I'm going to bring up a map so that you can
I
see
got you.
these places. Do you? Okay. If you could just
Mhm.
bring up the map. And while we're doing that, let's take a look at oil prices. It appears that, you know, oil is doing this weird thing. Oil, not pill prices, oil prices, oilprice.com. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And these things are, it's back up. West Texas Intermediate is up to $72.10. Brent North Sea crude is at $76.49. And Murban is at 71. And what I'd like to point out is, before we go to that map, what I'd like to point out is that Brent North Sea crude and WTI are starting to come closer together in scale. They're usually $10 apart. The other day when WTI was at 68, Brent North Sea crude was at 76 or 74, something like that. But they're getting closer. I don't know why. I leave that up to Mr. Global and all the other oil experts. But
Do you
again, yesterday,
notice
what did I notice? Shoot, everything's
WTI and OPEC?
yeah, they're all in the sevens. So if this they're going up. I think the hard reality that Trump himself said that this was that the deal was over, the MOU was over, the reinstituting of the blockade, the instituting of the sanctions. Now the traders here in Wall Street, which is down that way, and the oil traders are now starting to see some form of reality. But that form of reality is a little weird um, when in fact they don't seem to understand that the shortage that's coming is real. Okay, can you take us over to the eastern side of that map, Wajeeh? That's the right hand side. Right hand side. Keep going, other way, and show us Chabahar is right there. That little gap right there. On the right is Chabahar, and on the left is Konarak. Those two bases were hit by the Iranians, the Americans the other day. The Iranians registered bombing attacks by the Americans. But yesterday evening, there were sounds of explosions near Chabahar. And if you go back a little to the west, we will show Bandar Abbas in relation to Chabahar. You just see that. Back to the Strait of Hormuz. No. Above Shark Island is Bandar Abbas. Further
Okay.
up to the
No,
right. To the right. Bandar Abbas, big city.
Bandar Abbas. I'm sorry.
Bandar Abbas. There were reported sounds of explosions there. And then if you zoom out to show the whole Persian Gulf, a little more to the right, you will see, there you go. The other way, the other way. We're going to Bushehr, which is up at the top right-hand side of the Persian Gulf. Bushehr, uh, across from Kuwait.
Bandar Abbas.
Straight up,
Kuwait. Kuwait.
cross from Kuwait. There you go. Straight across the water. That's where Bushehr is. Cargill and Bushehr is in that vicinity. And then, Wajeeh, where your pen just was,
Here.
yes, if where your pen just was, if you could go up to the Iran-Iraq border there, you'll see Bandar Khomeini and right there, up above, up, where that green is, that is
This
the
green.
area of the Ahvaz oil refinery. So there were
Ahwaz
explosions
here.
reported.
It says Ahwaz.
Okay, awesome. Okay, that's where the four explosions were heard yesterday, and there was a belief that attacks were going on. Soon after that, U.S. Central Command put out a note saying U.S. Central Command was carrying out no attacks and that they didn't do those attacks. So the question that's on the table this morning amongst geopolitical analysts is, where's Waldo? Okay. Who is carrying out these attacks? And there's a whole bunch of speculation that Gulf states like Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates were carrying out their own attacks. I don't believe it. I think what we may have heard was like explosive surface to air missiles being fired into the air at targets that they thought were there. And they had explosions. They heard explosions. What do you think, Waj?
I think we're still at a fog of war. The reality of the matter is that uh, if all of these Gulf states united, they would be at a better chance of protecting themselves and merging their air defense systems into becoming a unified system. But they haven't gotten into a place to do it exactly.
That's not
But the reality, the situation is that uh, Qatar is running around right now making phone calls, begging people to stop shooting. And that's what they have been doing all day yesterday.
right.
On the other hand, you have Iran that I feel like you have people that can act on their own without having much directions from above where they can do
Um,
attacks.
I'm not sure of that because the attacks have been very focused and very strategic. Like the attack on the three tankers the other day, um, Emirati, Qatari, Saudi. I mean, one, two, three in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Very specific attacks, not generic,
Well,
let's just hit some ship attacks. And same thing with the ballistic missile responses. Very, very focused. So I don't think that the independence of these 31 regional IRGC commanders is just happening. I think it's coming from Tehran. That's just
let
me.
me fix what I'm saying because I
Okay.
did miss. What I meant to say, but the foreign minister and the speaker of the house have no say or control over the IRGC actions.
Those guys, this what we call the suits. Okay, the three suits that are carrying out the negotiations, right? Aranchi, Pezeshkian, and Galibaf. They're suits. And the least powerful of them all is Pezeshkian. You showed the other day at the funeral, people were calling him a collaborator, right? They were calling him
Yep.
like a co-conspirator, compromiser. That's the word they were using, compromiser. And they were shouting death threats at that guy in the middle of Tehran. These are IRGC diehards who could make that death threat happen. So I think those guys, you're right. They are speaking for the IRGC leadership, but I believe Mujtaba Khamenei is actually calling the shots because the shots are really good shots. They if they wanted to escalate to get Trump to lash out like a freaking crying baby and to close the Strait of Hormuz again and to create a massive global crisis with oil, they did it right, and Trump has lived up to it. And it's very weird, but you know, Iran has two things on their side right now that they will defeat the West with: time and oil. So long as no oil is flowing, they still get to keep their oil. But guess what? They'll sell it eventually. But those prices will shoot back up to $100 a barrel. The United States will go through a massive crisis. I heard today, Waj, and we'll talk more about this later. I heard today we're 19 million barrels away from the bottom. That means that we've just broken under 300 million barrels in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The Strategic Weapons Reserve for the armed forces is 270 million barrels. A couple of days ago, it was at 319 million barrels. It has just gone below 300 million barrels. So we are a week away from where Trump will have to make a decision to empty the Strategic Petroleum Reserve of all of its military reserves. Military, which means the United States will not be able to fight a war if a real war breaks out. I don't mean with Iran, a real one. Iran, with, any place where all of the
China,
ships.
Russia.
Also, we might run out of oil for producing jet fuel, aviation fuel, all these things. The price could become astronomical. So I don't know where Trump's mind is because you know what I think? I think he's senile. I think, I can't believe the other day I was talking to some, or I was doing the program. And they were going, "Oh, Joe Biden's senile." He never kicked off as senile. Trump really comes off as senile. He can't remember names, places. He can't remember one decision from the next, and everything he does is, he farts and, poops his diaper. So we're in a very bad place.
Question.
Seriously. Mhm.
If you were the Secretary of War,
Yeah, I would be.
uh, and and you find yourself in a situation like this, I would personally be shitting myself. But what would you do in terms of like fixing that situation?
Well, first off, you got an idiot in the job. So if I were Secretary of War, I'd be kicking the president's ass every day, going, "Do you know what's about to happen?" I would be a hard reality check. Pete Hegseth is not. He's a fucking moron. He would have been, compared to those admirals, he was about the rank of a corporal. Right? So it was like Hitler, who was a corporal in World War One, telling generals in the German army what to do, right? Moving around imaginary divisions that have been long destroyed. That's Hegseth's like, "Yeah, boss, let's do it." All right? Throwing gang signs, doing selfies. He's a weird, weird guy. But for him to come and have to tell the boss the truth, "Hey, chief, we're about to enter into the military's SPR. And at the end of that, the US military will have nothing and we'll have enough oil till October." Do you think that punk is going to make that statement to Trump? He'll be like, "Boss, everything's rocking." Right? That's how he is. He's a fucking walking, talking Mountain Dew with gin commercial. So, what makes you think he would tell Trump the truth? Does that rock your world or what?
No, no, I just want to know how you fix it, because like at this point is because you are. I don't think so. I know people in the Pentagon and the military sit down and do a lot of game theory on battle boards and how to solve like really complicated issues.
Mhm.
Was being run out of oil to our zero levels ever one of those game theories?
No, we haven't, we haven't been this low since 1983. And so what did we do in 1983? We started filling that thing back up. And they filled the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and got it up to 500 million barrels. Remember, it's an emergency short term item. And it was built not for the energy crisis, it was built to keep an emergency reserve for the nation and mainly the military. So now, yes, did Biden tap into it during his administration? Yeah, it went down a couple of tens of million barrels, but not fucking 100, from 500 to to almost 270. 270 is the operational bottom. But Trump could say, just keep puffing it up, keep, filling the oil tanks and keeping the price low until, we'll get oil from somewhere. And that's his attitude. We'll get oil from somewhere. Like,
Ay, قلبي يا كوت يا ما تسمع يا ما تسكت.
yeah, yeah, yes, it's you. Watch is praying now. So, yeah, pray for an end to this. So, that patriotic hamburger I keep saying, or stroke, I don't care which one it is, right? And then you'll get JD Vance in there. Shikes. He was the equivalent of a buck private compared to all of the guys. He was a corporal in the Marine Corps. It was like, and he wrote newsletters. He was a newsletter writer. He was for a flying Marine Air Wing in Iraq. And he sat on his laptop writing, "Hey, this is what went on in the Air Wing today. This guy got the air medal. This guy cleaned the toilets. Our squadron flew 25 sorties." I mean, I got tons more combat experience than that guy. But it's not about that. JD Vance was picked because Peter Thiel wants to create a crazy goddamn techno, environment, and he got Eric Trump on board. So that guy's going to be a moron. So we're in a very, very, very bad place, a very, very bad place. And I know there's a lot of people who go, Malcolm, you guys have been naysayers for a long time. When is very bad place coming? Trump told the world 4 weeks. That was 4 weeks ago. Let's say that there's some flex in between there. But if he closes the Strait of Hormuz, oil stops going to 20% of the world, including to us, right? Aviation fuel, jet fuel, fertilizer, chemicals, all the things that are produced out of petrochemicals, liquid natural or natural gas going to other providers. That's going to be taken away from America. That we saw this months ago. They kept saying, where's the oil that comes from all the American oil fields? It's being sold on the open market to other countries, which is why America has a deficit of oil every day. Yes, Roger.
You know why Macron was in Syria?
Okay. Is this like a joke?
No,
Other than trying to get their that tiny little Rauda field or whatever it is they have online. Why was he there?
exactly that. That's the only reason to
That
secure
field,
oil.
but that field is there, and they've got security on it now, and they have a pipeline that goes from I think it's the waste field that goes from there to Tartus. And now, of course, the Iraqis are putting all their oil on trucks and driving it to Tartus, Syria, through Syria. So Europe is getting their oil. It's a tiny trickle of oil. It's a tiny trickle of oil, but it is oil. And you could route that to aviation fuel, for example, trying to get refineries to process aviation fuel. And we talked yesterday about how boom, boom, bada boom. Libya is back, baby. Libya is back as an oil producing country. They're
That's right.
auctioned off the first fields this week. Those fields have been there. Yes, they've been stagnant. Yes, they're going to need a lot of equipment, but oil companies are like, "Woo, woo, woo, woo." They're running to
Let me
Libya with big dollars.
let me explain something to the audience. Before, why are we seeing a whole bunch of these countries all of a sudden get operational when they haven't been operational for a very long time? Well, when the spot price, not the future price, when the spot price is heading above $100,
The cash.
and then the costs versus the profit makes sense. When the oil prices are very low and the demand is very low, then you have a problem. When the oil supply is high and the demand is low, you have a problem. But when the oil supply is low and the demand is so high,
Mhm.
everyone will be making money who is trying to make some money in oil.
Yep.
So if you have a broken gas oil field, you all of a sudden can take a loan and pay it off, and you find the solution for producing oil, and you sell on the market on spot price because people need it now. They don't need it tomorrow. They need it now.
Yeah. Well, guess what? It don't exist now. All right. We are still releasing. Trump was the one who ordered 173 million barrels released from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at the beginning of this thing to soften oil prices. And it did. It had the desired effect. It's just now that tank of oil is half empty. And it's going to go to either Trump decides the military doesn't need any oil, right? That he'll risk that we'll have not have a major war where half the U.S. armed forces has to deploy, and let that oil be tapped, or we're going to hit that bottom. You know, I'm looking right now. The current stockpile, if we blow through, we're using 20 million per day out of the SPR. If we do that, we have 16 to 22 days, right? The current inventory of now the inventory hasn't been checked. They check it every week. Of 320 million barrels would take 74 days to empty completely. But remember, if we empty that completely in 74 days, which I might remind you is not very far off, right? From now, that would be the first week of October. It's the middle of July, August, September, 2.5 months to get to. United States has zero reserve oil for anything, which means the military would be buying oil at 10 times its current value. I mean, it's crazy. And they say, "Oh, we're going to bring it back up." They're liars. These people are pathological liars. Okay, I know we beat this to death. Let's go back to the Iran deal. I want to talk about this. It seems that the Gulf states, Waj, are working the phones. You mentioned that a little bit earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants this shit to stop because when you impose the blockade, Iran gets mad and starts attacking more ships, and the Americans start cutting off oil. And the 20%, I keep telling people, if I pressed on your jugular vein 20%, you would start to brown out after a little bit and get all hazy and dozy and then pass out. That is the world's reserve right now. Right? And Trump's like, oh, let's press on the 20% and then let's press on it again with another hand. I don't get this guy. What do you say about them talking? What?
2 days ago, you said, Wajeeh, the Iran attacks and the U.S. attacks on Iran has started. What do you think is going to happen next? I said, Gulf states will run around. Everyone will run around trying to convince people to stop the fight.
Yes, and if that happens,
48, 48 hours later, 24 hours later, Qatar is on the phone. Okay, Gulf states, stay down. No one moves. Okay, Gulf states. Habibi, America. What do you want? What do you want, America? Khalas, khalas, that's it. Iran, we are friends, aren't we friends? We're
Iran,
neighbors. We are.
I'm Iran, okay? Iran, as the Islamic Republic of Iran, I have two words for you. Two words, just two words. Khalas. Only two words. Everything will be fine. Money, bitches.
Okay, okay. No, don't money, money. We give you money, but calm down, calm down.
Okay. You give me money, I calm down. I want more in
We give
advance.
you money. Don't worry,
That's
don't worry. Khalas, khalas. That's
okay.
it.
This is it. That's it. That is the entire cycle of negotiation that is going on right now. And I'm hearing that the main negotiators who are working the phones are Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. But I don't think it's Saudi Arabia talking to Iran. I think Saudi Arabia is using Turkey, as and Pakistan as their interlocutors. And we'll see what happens. But it doesn't work when you have Trump saying officially that, as far as I'm concerned, we are in a back to. By the way, when they say the ceasefire is over, it's worse than that. We were past the ceasefire. The MOU was signed as an official declaration. The war had ended, not a ceasefire, that the combat operations had ended and that they would go into a 60-day negotiation cycle. That's over now. And, some people say it's not dead completely, it's on life support. But Trump said this today that, as far as I'm concerned, it's over. And if the team wants to talk, Kushner and Witkoff going to talk, halas, they can go talk, right? But he says the talks aren't over, but they are for me. And that's him trying to play this, strong guy thing there. This is not working. What do you say before we move on?
Uh, we have spoken about the escalation ladder several times, and that Trump forgets that he tried to use the escalation ladder
Mhm.
and use the game of chicken. And the game of chicken reminder to everyone, it's when you have two cars driving at full speed against each other. And if you swerve, then you lose face. But if you keep going, then you are like the one with the cojones. But if you none of you swerve, then you both get in a very bad accident. And the reason Iran keeps winning is because Iran has way more to lose if they lost or swerved and the game of chicken than Trump does. If Trump loses this war, meaning he decides to end the war, come back home, and decide the game is over, all he'll lose is bad face and go to the Mar-a-Lago for a week or two, and then come back to the White House. That's just what it will. That, but for Iran, that means they have way more repercussions economically, politically, and yeah, economically and political.
Mm, it's a conundrum. Right now, I'm checking the Strait of Hormuz traffic as of today. Um, Traffic did move yesterday, even after the attacks, through the Iranian traffic separation scheme. Nobody went through the southern route. And I want to see how that's happened in the last afternoon, this afternoon. However, there has been a surge of U.S. tanker aircraft and attack aircraft back into the Middle East after they sent 67 tankers back to the United States from being stationed in Ben Gurion Airport. So Trump appears that somebody obviously said, "Oh, if we're going to be playing this game, we're going to need a whole bunch of tankers." In the last 4 minutes, marinetraffic.com put out this graphic showing traffic flowing in the Strait of Hormuz. And except for some of those small dhows, every major ship is using the Iranian traffic separation scheme. Halas, who controls the Strait of Hormuz? I can tell you,
Iran.
I, I got a pretty good idea. Also, what it shows is that the United States providing defense by blasting shit in the Strait of Hormuz is not trusted by anyone who is moving cargo now. America's strength no longer exists. Every time we attack, we cut off tanker traffic, thereby closing the Strait of Hormuz more than the Iranians have. Go figure. And then reinstituting a blockade. It's suicide to a certain extent. Okay. And the Joint Maritime Information Center, which is working with the U.S. military, is trying to tell people the southern route's still open. The IRGC is saying, we dare you. Go ahead. Go ahead and use it. Apparently, no one is listening to the JMIC. Maritime traffic is 10 vessels went through in the last 24 hours. 10. We were up to 41 the day before the United States did all those massive attacks. Yes, the Iranians did those broken window attacks, but then we counterattacked. We could have let this go a week ago, and Trump would have had a week of oil moving around the world. All right. Oh, just FYI, for those of you who are wondering, there has been a chat posted in Substack for questions since about 4 this morning. So you can go in there. I'm going to read your questions off here in a minute. Wajeeh, any last words? Any famous last words?
As of 24 minutes ago, funny thing you say that Qatar urges the U.S. and Iran to uphold the deal and protect the
Oh,
Strait of Hormuz. What deal? What deal? What
I don't know,
MOU
but
are you talking about?
you need to be careful, though, because when you talk in that voice, I thought you were giving me a Trump quote, that Trump was about to say something stupid. So you,
No, no,
you
no, no.
scared me for a minute there. I was like, what did he say now?
No, he didn't say anything yet. But the reality is that you may not be feeling anything immediately in the United States right now.
Mhm.
But we did keep saying that you will feel this. The only reason you haven't felt it is
It's
because the United States is protecting you with its subsidies, is protecting you with its own
dumping
resources,
oil in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's why
and
you
you're
haven't felt
feeling,
it.
yeah, and you're being in a bubble, and you are not in the war zone. Here's the other part. Most of Americans are not being attacked. I'm grateful that the U.S. homeland is not being under attack. But if the
Mhm.
United States homeland is under attack, the urgency of Americans all of a sudden is somewhere way above. So many Americans don't even care what's happening in Iran at the moment because their pocket hasn't really been hurting fully yet.
Mhm. True. Okay, let's go to questions because there's some great comments and questions. The first question you and I can answer in one word. Gary Gersh says, will the USA and Iran ever have a real nuclear deal? Before I
Yeah,
answer, I'm going to say we had one. We had one. It was called the Joint, the JCPOA, right? The Plan of Action, and it was a real nuclear deal. It was real. They went from 200 tons of nuclear material and gave it to Russia, and Russia took care of it, got rid of it. Their radioactive material left over, their uranium was enriched only to 3.5%. It is very hard to enrich from 3.5% to 60%. And once you get up there, woohoo, it's easy to enrich. We had a real nuclear deal, and Trump tore it up. And why? Why? Why'd why?
because
Any
because
particular, any particular reason?
because Hussein Borak, the one who's not American, became a U.S. president, made a very horrible deal.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though the
incredible.
deal was made by nuclear scientists, the Obama deal is trash. My deal is the art of the deal.
Yeah. You
It's
know
a
what they
Trump
say?
deal.
There's an actual cartoon that has Trump tearing up the JCPOA, and one of the negotiators said, "Sir, what did you find so offensive about it?" And he goes, "Obama's signature." That's what he found. Black man, when the black guy did it. Ooh. All right, let's go on.
He
Oh,
has
the answer, by the way, is no.
the
No, I don't think we will ever reach a nuclear deal. I think Iran will try to go to produce a nuclear weapon now. I would. If I were the Iranians, I'd be like, F y'all. I'm going to make 10 bombs, 10, and I'm going to detonate one of them. And I'm going to tell
Mhm.
you, you have no idea where the rest are. And then I would make 100 false ones and constantly move them all over the country and let the Israelis be trying to attack us every minute. Michael Grobel says, at some point, can you have lawyers on to discuss how to put these mofos in jail after Trump is out? Michael,
You mean have a
Elizabeth
prosecutor,
Grobel.
not a lawyer?
It says, let me see. I hear Viktor Orban and family are moving to the United States. Can we figure out how to arrest or deport them? That would take another Justice Department. That would take another government. All right. Orban stole from his own people. I would think it would be awesome if his own country put out a red notice on him. All right. And had him internationally arrested, but Trump would probably, you saw Trump tried to beg tried to beg for both Netanyahu and Orban to be given a pardon. Bitch, you got to be guilty to get a pardon. What are you pardoning them for, Donald? Interesting. Okay. Oh, I really don't think. Okay. Michael Kelmeris says, because our pedo in chief always seems to wiggle out of catastrophe, I really don't think the administration will let it get to where we have oil shortages. That being said, do you have any idea how they might be planning to avoid this? Dude, you got to stop using words like planning and with the Trump administration. That and common sense. Don't ever use those words. That takes forethought, right? And absence of malice. These guys are they're thieves. They're just stealing. They don't have any plans. They plan to go to the Costa del Sol or something, but they don't have any plans of helping you or the American people out. Oh, this is another one from Max. Is it true that Kuwait, this is what we heard yesterday. Is it true that Kuwait and Bahrain hit Iran yesterday? No, it's not true. There were four sounds of explosions with no impact, so I don't believe it. And what would Kuwait? That would be suicide. Kuwait and Bahrain hitting the Iranians. Hit them with what? Hit them with your wallet is all that they're doing right now. So, does that move us to closer, wider regional war? No. What happens if the Kurds in Iraq invade Iran? The Kurds in Iraq get their asses handed to them by the Iranians. Kurds can't seem to get their ass. They really, I don't know if you've ever been up to Kurdistan. I have. I've met all the Kurdish groups up there, KDP, PKK, all of. Guess what? They all hate each other. Kurds hate each other more than they hate foreign enemies. I don't understand a more fractious group of people. But no, there will not be anything there. Don't know. Okay. Michael Grobel, did you spies ever have to wear disguises like Tom Cruise or Peter Sellers?
No,
Wajeeh is not a spy, so he never had to wear. He asked Wajeeh, "What about you?" Wajeeh just wears his clothes, right? His day clothes. He's impossible to miss. The problem is, if you go to Saudi Arabia, there's 50 guys like you on the street. I couldn't tell you apart.
I will only go back to Saudi Arabia as a U.S. diplomat.
As a U.S. diplomat. Yeah, okay, that ain't happening anytime soon.
He said it ain't happening.
Anytime soon. Okay, hold on for a second. I think I have a photograph. I have a photograph, but I'm not. Let me put it this way. I have been culturalized. I am not in disguise the way you're talking about it. You're thinking the old school of changing your face, your figure, and everything so that you're unrecognizable from your true self. And I'm checking my selfie library here because I do have a picture as I was going on to an operation. This was cleared and is in the memoir, Thinker, Sailor, Black Man, Spy. And I am in Morocco and I am in national dress. And let me tell you something. You saw me in Morocco, you wouldn't tell me, you wouldn't blink twice at me. You would ask me where to go buy croissants and how much is my donkey. So I didn't have a donkey though. I rode a donkey, but I didn't have a donkey. You know, where is the camel beauty contest? That's what you would have asked me. But no, I didn't wear a disguise. Let's go on to the next questions there. Can we hire
You
you to
got it.
take care of business? Says, yeah, what kind of business? No, you can't. Um, let's see about the Iran nuclear deal. A lot of good comments. There's a lot of good interaction in the chat right now. Why does Iran not strike back at Israel right now or in the last few days? Asked Angelique F. Because Israel hasn't done anything provocative. So they've had their turn. Um, we answered the question, another question about the Kurds. Why? We'll get that. Why am I now forced to add this to my calendar? Oh, I am sending out advance notices now on the shows. I'm doing 2 or 3 days, and it asks you if you want it on your calendar. You don't have to. You can just come up at 9 o'clock, hit the go live with Malcolm Nance button. But I'm trying to stay ahead of this so that I don't just start it at 9 a.m. You know, you have 1 day's notice in advance, 1 or 2 days notice in advance that it's coming, right? Did you see reports on Trump at NATO being a complete idiot, as Steve Bula Malenga? We talked about this yesterday. Yes, we saw him being a complete idiot. Giorgia Maloney is all of us. Okay, looks at him, wrinkles her nose. This is a good one. Michael says, "Why are gasoline pump prices more fully reflecting market reality? It's scarce and waning product." Because the United States has released 139 million barrels into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and that the traders are not the guys who actually control the oil. Those guys are selling against the future. They bought into the belief that the war was over and everything was going to be awesome. And they are, technically, these prices are artificially low, right? But when the shortage comes, a real one, and the actual physical oil doesn't match the trades, then you're going to see it. Mr. Global online, go watch his Twitter Substack feed. He's on Twitter. He can explain this. He's an oil commodities guy. I am not. So, Waja from Vadinator. Does Iran eventually run out of patience? Eventually, I think they might escalate to try and get Trump to see sense. Any thoughts? What do you think?
Another cup of tea.
No, khalas. Khalas. What do you want to do, Sheikh? You got more of this? More of this? No. This is called this, besides being a camel, Godman is strategic patience. This is a cup of strategic patience. I'm going to go get kebabs for lunch.
Exactly.
Then I'm going to pray. Then we got to go to Mashhad. Bury the
Oh,
Ayatollah was buried
oh, have
yesterday.
tema. Have tema.
Mm. they're not going to do nothing unless provoked because everything that is going on now is in Iran's interest. Iran has all the leverage, right? Somebody put it perfectly yesterday. I think it might have been Colonel Aguilar, the former special forces guy, where he said, dropping bombs does not mean you have the enemy's attention anymore. It just means you're dropping bombs. It is not an indicator that you're doing better. It's actually an indicator you're doing worse, right? And that's all we have. All we have here is bombs and the ability to pay these guys off. Yeah. There's some questions about Joe Biden. Yes, he was made, it was the news media that made Biden look senile. Trump is actually senile. The way he talks, the way he acts. I don't understand that. Urban Herman says, why doesn't Trump place export and price controls on U.S. petroleum since we produce enough for domestic use? We don't produce enough for domestic use. That's a myth. That's a myth he's created. Yes, we are the largest oil producer in the world, but we are producing willy-nilly, right? Saudi Arabia is
We
controlling their production. OPEC controls their levels of production. Wajeeh.
so the United States before this war used to import 10% of its oil consumption. 90% of the oil US consumed was produced by the United States. 8% of the 10% that was imported was from Saudi Arabia, and the rest from the Gulf states and other countries. The reality of the matter is that we depend on import, we depend on you, and in fact, a large part of our oil export, we were trying to get through Canada pipeline
From this.
through all the way to the warm waters of Florida, or I believe all the way of the waters of Florida, yes, where they are trying to sell oil. And now you have a situation at the moment where the United States has decided not only to stop putting that oil into its own reserve, which we were a little short of. We decided that we would be selling it, and we would be selling our own oil reserves.
Yes.
So
And,
we did
and
both. We sold the oil that we produced, and we sold the oil that we saved.
And we produce 20, I'm reading the statistics now from the oil economist. We produce 20.7 million barrels of oil per day, and we consume 20 million barrels per day. We produce 22.8 million barrels per day. But guess what? The oil companies are selling off that excess to where we are operating at a deficit, and it's being pumped up artificially when Trump is releasing all the extra oil going down. Oh, we're screwed. Okay,
It's
let me
going
just.
down.
There's a couple of questions here. Um, Let me see. Somebody posted a video. Where's Mitch McConnell? Um,
Yeah. How
what's
is Mitch McConnell doing? What are your spies telling you, Malcolm?
ANF tell me nothing. I heard the communications from the EMTs when they were there. Mitch McConnell's 84 years old. They were conducting manual CPR, not an AED, right? Because they put an AED on his ass, right? An automatic external defibrillator. And that, they pressed the button on that thing. I was an EMT for a while when I was in the military. I got up to EMT, I was an EMT. I was actually on the space shuttle support crew up in Spain. And they put that AED on first to see if there's any heart sign, to see if the AED can do anything. And if they can't shock you, dun dun, when you do CPR, you will break the sternum and the ribs with the
Mm-hmm.
chest compressions. The probability of coming back at 84 years old from CPR is probably below 5%. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's very small, very small. And, if you got him back, did you get him back in time? How long was he without oxygen to the brain? Is he brain dead? My guess is brain dead. They are covering this thing up. I think they're trying. They said they need to cover it up to the first week of August so that they can't have run a special. So they cannot run a special election.
I
So
saw a
it's
report saying his wife left the country.
3 days after he was put in the hospital. Let me tell you something. When my late wife was brought into the hospital with septicemia, which was they called me. I was in Poland. I jumped on a plane that day, flew nonstop back to Philadelphia in a total panic, and I did not leave that room for 77 days till the day she passed. I gotta tell you, man, this guy's wife jumped on a plane to China, right? Elaine Chao is his wife, former commerce secretary, or was she commerce or energy? She was one of the cabinet secretaries. Goes to China. Yeah, was he dancing up? And they were like, "Oh, he's fine. Don't worry about it." I suspect he was brain dead, and she was just like, "We got to cover this up. I need to make this look normal."
Was she a
So
Chinese agent if she goes to China?
no, no, she's cha-ching. That's the only Chinese she speaks, right? All these Republicans out there, that's all they speak. When they talk about China, they're talking about making money off of China, nothing else. Even when they're insulting China, they're like, "Hey, yo, y'all got some money for me, right?" So, okay. The majority of products that were sold as distilled products. We do not have unlimited refining capacity. I hope we don't have a major hurricane. Or as we saw in Australia, when Australia was starting to go to absolute rock bottom on diesel and gasoline, they had a mysterious explosion in one of their largest refineries, which shot the price of gasoline and diesel
Yeah.
through the roof.
I remember.
Hmm. Hmm.
Beginning of the war.
Coincidence takes a lot of planning. Nance's law, right? That's the coincidence. All right, we have gone 1 full hour. Um, we've given you all the news that there is to give. You also know that Donald Trump will probably say something stupid 2 minutes after we sign off from this show. So, Wajeeh, are you doing a Q&A or anything like that today? Or are
I'm
you
doing a
taking the day off?
Q&A. I am doing a Q&A. Pay attention to after the market closes, the U.S. might do another attack, which is
Yes,
Friday.
5 p.m. 5 p.m. is U.S. military attack time. We always attack between midnight and 5 a.m. And
But
5
his
a.m., we need to be
weekend as
flying
well.
back. Yeah, yeah. Every day. And you've got to pump those oil prices up, right? So on Monday, they go, peace deal. With tears in
Yeah.
their eyes, the Iranians came and begged me. They said, sir, they sent the biggest Iranian Revolutionary Guard guy they had, came and said, sir, would you please give us a peace deal? We are begging you for a peace deal. And then
With
Monday,
tears in their eyes.
tears in their eyes. You've got So, okay, thank you for coming to this episode of Black Man Spy, New York City, Manhattan edition. I'm going to go move on to a couple of meetings and then I'm jumping in the car and I'm going to have a pleasant drive home because it's only going to be 86 degrees today. Sweet. I wish I could get out onto the water, but I'm not. So, that being said, thank you. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching this on Substack, you are already a subscriber. But if you're on YouTube, come over to Substack and subscribe. And if you're on Substack, go over to YouTube and subscribe, and you can watch it on both platforms. One question was asked a little earlier. Why do only paid subscribers get to ask questions and participate in the chat? Because they paid for that privilege. I do see your commentary today. I didn't, your running commentary, but it's only $7 a month. Please I'm begging you, become a paid subscriber to Black Man Spy so that I can facilitate these things. And I know some of you guys who are hardcore, diehard, love Malcolm guys keep begging me for merch. Merch is coming. We are developing that right now with a jobber. Wajeeh actually has some tips for me on getting merchandise. So thank you for coming, Wajeeh. I will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, my friend.
Okay, everybody, take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.